All right, we're live. Welcome to the 134th installment of the Unplugged Alpha podcast series. Just building something on the book here. We're back with the old school camera. The DSLR has been fixed. Thank God. The webcam sucks for especially nighttime casts. But we're back in business here with this angle and the far better camera. Hope you guys can hear me today. We're going to be talking about some crazy new laws that have been proposed and are looking for royal ascension and to become law in Canada. And I'm talking to you guys about this today because it's relevant to everybody out there that lives in a place in the world where they don't want you to have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative. So, where should we start? I had to read this entire bill. It's 104 pages long. There's a lot of good summaries out there, some fine work done by some law firms sort of trying to summarize it, but I think a lot of the better stuff came from the critics. And let me start with a little bit of history around these sorts of things, because I'm not a stranger to bizarre bills that get passed by government into law. I've mentioned this in the past, so let me sort of give you a little bit of Batman origin story. Around 2009, when I was running my debt settlement company, there was a proposed bill to be passed that would essentially, and the way that they worded it was to protect consumers from predatory debt relief companies. Let's put it that way, is the way that they described it. I thought, great. We've got all these unlicensed companies out there. Some of them are growing in exponential ways by essentially over-promising results and under-delivering on the back end as far as performance. I'm not going to mention any of the names, but they're the standard bullshit names where you usually hire a C or B level celebrity and they become your spokesperson and tell you all these ways that you can save a whole bunch of money. So 2009 and 10, we saw the Canadian dollar at par with the US dollar. It was a good time for me. It was when I bought my E93 M3, which is the very first car you guys saw on my Entrepreneurs and Cars YouTube channel in 2014, that white cab with the red leather seats that I started filming quite a lot of my videos in. I imported that from California because the dollar was actually, I think it was $1.04 Canadian to the US dollar. So we had a very favorable rate. What that did, though, was there was some changes in the American laws. Was it the FTC? Attorney generals were essentially dealing with nefarious players and finding them, and they were having problems with it because down there they were over-promising and under-delivering on the back end. So what they saw was a dollar that was at par. They already had systems in place, so they started making the exact same claims in Canada. And I remember vividly, I was sitting in my car one day at a stoplight, and there was this like a panel van that pulled up beside me, and he had his radio loud. It was summertime, my windows down, I could hear it, and I could hear an advertisement on the radio from this American company that was over-promising and under-delivering and using stories like there's new government programs that will help you get out of debt. And I just thought to myself, oh, bullshit. Here we go. These clowns lying to people, telling them that there's endorsements from the government to eliminate credit card debt. And they would do it in such a regard where they would essentially say you could reduce your debt by like 80%. They were like absurd numbers. The typical results were maybe 50 to 60% with the fees. Basically all in, they would generally get out of debt within 3 years for less than what they owe on the day they started, was the way that we claimed it. But these people were saying government programs, basically the government co-signs this, and you're going to get your debt reduced by 80%. I was like, this is not going to end well. They had huge media buys on TV and radio. They were spending money in ways that I couldn't spend on advertising. I was advertising Google pay-per-click for the most part of that time, which was very cost effective. But they were spending huge amounts of money. So they were, of course, making these promises. New clients were coming on. And then the banks and credit card companies didn't like that. So they started to encourage the government to pass legislation because there's new laws in Parliament every year And they usually combine these bills. So it'll be like dealing with real estate issues, dealing with real estate agents, dealing with insurance, dealing with Collection Agencies Act, dealing with debt relief. And they'll just pile into a bill, and then they'll call the bill something to protect consumer rights, right? So this new bill 63 that I'm going to talk about in this video deals with protecting children from pornography, or children being essentially exploited, is the guise that the bill is sort of wrapped in. Similar to what happened before that I dealt with over a decade ago, where the guise of the bill was to protect consumers. So I started taking a look at the stuff that's in this. It became clear that their strategy wasn't to protect the consumer. And it's funny because in order to deal with these sorts of things in Parliament and get in front of the critics, because what happens is they write a 104-page bill. The political party that drafts it and offers it to Parliament for vote and criticism will then have the opposition parties critique it. So I dealt with the criticism, the Conservative Party, the New Democrat Party, which is the Socialist Party, which was run by Jagmeet Singh. He was the critic of the bill at the time. He's now the leader of the Socialist Party here in Canada. And these people all seem very concerned that there was going to be opportunities for consumers to take advantage of eliminating debt stripped away because of the way they wrote the bill. It was essentially attacking your ability to make money. So if they can cripple the ability for the company to make money and offer a service to the consumer, it basically puts the company out of business. So that was what their strategy was. So when I took a look at all this legislation and started lobbying on it, what ended up happening is you have to hire lobbyists because you can't do it yourself. It's impossible. So you hire these lobbyists, and these are all former politicians and bureaucrats, by the way. And when we're sitting down going through it and starting to deal with the critics of the bill, they're like, this is not to protect the consumer. This is to protect the profit margins of the financial institutions. They should have just called this bill Protect the Profit Margins of the Financial Institutions, right? Because it would have stripped away any opportunity for people financially crippled to take advantage of ways to get out of debt without destroying their credit rating. Long story short, they passed the bill regardless of what the critics said they were interested in preventing. I spent so much money and time going down to Queen's Park, having lunch with these critics. You know, they're just in it for themselves. Prior to that, I didn't have a very high opinion of government or government's interest in people and passing laws that are to our benefit. I just didn't have a general warmth towards it from a broad perspective. But it was the 2 years of dealing with lobbyists and talking to the critics and examining opportunities to sort of introduce language that would improve it, that would still offer consumer protections, but also deal with the nefarious players that would overpromise and underdeliver and make claims that were totally untrue. Because at that time, they were able to. So anyway, the bill passes. It doesn't address any of the issues or any of the proposals that we made, and it becomes law. This is the way that government operates. Now, government, some people say, well, that's Canada, Rich. It's not the same everywhere. You know, don't sweat it, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing, though. If you live in a British parliamentary system, Canada, UK, New Zealand, Australia, it's very, very similar. The US is different, obviously. I think the US will be like the last castle to fall when it comes to free speech and hate laws and stuff like that, just because of the way they have their amendments written, you know, Second Amendment, right to bear arms, free speech, blah, 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 sort of thing. But they are coming. Make no mistake, they are coming for all of these countries. This is the insanity of what's being passed. So here's a summary of what I came across. So you don't have to look at all this stupid stuff. And by the way, yeah, we'll have time for calls today and all that sort of stuff. I already posted the link to call in. You know, we'll do it halfway through the show after I run the ad reel, and we'll take Q&A on any topic you want. So here's a few of my notes. Canadians really don't believe or agree in free speech because the problem is that if you have an opinion that's different from their agenda, they want you to shut up about it. They want free speech when it comes to, they want freedom when it comes to things that benefit their weird sort of ideas. Like, I came across this press piece. I think we talked about on a general show once on a Sunday. But there was a case that was brought to the Ontario courts by a citizen of Canada that lives in Ontario that wanted medicine, that wanted the government free health care to pay for a operation that would provide him with both a penis and a vagina. Apparently, Canada doesn't have the facilities or the resources to perform said treatment, medical treatment, but they exist in Texas somewhere. I think it was Austin or something like that. Surprise, surprise. And he won. He won this appeal. So taxpayers are being forced to pay for this operation, which, I mean, if we're being honest, it's not cardiovascular health. It's not something to do with Alzheimer's. It's not something to do with, stepped on a landmine amputation. We need to get titanium or carbon fiber legs built or something like that. It's purely, I don't know, entertainment purposes. You can call it whatever you want. I'm trying to be mindful of my language, but you get the point. Like, if you have an opinion or statement made that goes against something that they don't like, then they'll just blanket call it hate speech. Now, again, this bill was presented under the guise of protecting children from online harm. Great, awesome story. Let me just summarize what it. So there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So there's a few points here that it's designed to protect. Intimate content communicated without consent. Sorry, content, not contact. Intimate content communicated without consent. Content that sexually victimizes a child or re-victimizes a survivor. That's a noteworthy topic for Alex Jones and that issue that he has, that he's dealing with right now with that huge fine. C, content that induces a child to harm themselves. Fine, let's protect children. Content used to bully a child. Now it's starting to get in the gray area. I'm not, like, every kid gets bullied in school. I got bullied, you got bullied, we all got bullied in school for something, right? I don't think bullying is that bad of a thing. So one of the things that this bill is going to include is it's essentially going to criminalize, because some of the penalties are going to be, like, the maximum penalty is life in jail, which is essentially the same as killing somebody, right? It's like equal to murder, to first degree murder. But content that is used to bully a child, what's the definition of that going to be? You know, is somebody on, like a kid on social media makes fun of somebody, another kid in, high school calls them fat or something like that, which is what we would have done very easily. When I was in school, in high school back in the day, no problem. It happened forever. Like, it's like bullying, shaming is kind of the same thing. Like, fat shaming works. It convinces people to improve their choices and their behaviors to get better results. Broke shaming works. You tell somebody that, they lack financial resources and they want certain things, and, they call them a brokey or something like that. Then they'll often go and do the work and be like, fine, I'll show you, sort of thing. So I don't know that it's important to bubble wrap children over bullying. There's certain, like, harmful ways where it might be done, but I think the definitions, which I'll explain in a sec, aren't being defined. It's basically being left to a committee. Let's keep going, though. The next one they have on here is content that foments hatred, content that incites violence, content that incites violent extremism or terrorism. Those are the main points of the bill. So the first 3 points deal with children. The remaining 4 points deal with essentially content that either bullies, is tied to hatred, incites violence, or incites extremism, terrorism, which you would think at first glance is, well, that's a good idea. We don't want those things, right? Hear me out. Let's keep going. So we already talked about the bill operating under the guise to protect children from being exploited online. Now, this bill gives an agency, so it's a new regulator that's going to be created. So another government body is going to be created, a new agency to supervise platforms, make the rules, but we have no idea what the rules will be. Generally, when you pass a bill in Parliament, you state what the bill has and what the rules will be enforced. We use something like highway traffic safety, right? Like a speed limit. If you're going to pass a bill in Parliament that says highways will have a posted speed limit of 100 kilometers an hour, and you're not to exceed 100 kilometers an hour, and if you exceed 100 kilometers an hour, these will be the consequences, right? In this case, with these loosely worded bills, is they're not telling you what the rules are going to be. It's going to be up to the discretion of the new agency, the new regulator, to define the rules. So it's batshit crazy right from the get-go. It essentially gives them the authority to do what they think is best. There is no range of power specified at all. Things have gotten significantly worse since I dealt with this well over a decade ago. Government agency will police platforms, and then platforms will censor users. So wherever you're going to produce content, whether it's on social media, anything that is a platform that you have an app on your phone for, could be public, could be private, it doesn't matter. They will police the platforms, and then the platforms will be forced to censor the user based on that. They always design bills this way. It just gives them maximum authority, is what it does at the end of the day, which is what they were seeking. They're not seeking to provide us with more freedom. They're not seeking to improve our lives. What they're seeking to do when legislation is written is to provide maximum authority to the government agency or the regulators that have the ability to change the course of your life. They could, again, the penalties that they've included in the bill include life imprisonment, include $50,000 fines. So as an example, you could say, I am a strong advocate for fossil fuels, and I like the internal combustion engine, and I think they're great, and electric cars suck. That could be deemed as hate speech in this loosely worded bill. I don't know if this actual clip that I'm stating right now, if they can go back in history, they could go back 10 years and find something that you said online and lock you up and put you in jail. But the potential exists because the legislation is so broadly written without specifics, giving the regulator, the government agency, the authority to essentially define whatever they want whenever they feel like it, once they have that power. Bills like this always delegate the authority to make rules and guidelines to the bureaucracy, and then figure out the details of those rules later on. So again, the bill is introduced with ideas in it, but not with the details that are going to offer the protection measures. Just the idea, we don't want hate, we don't want bullying, we don't want anything that incites, violence, stuff like that, which sounds great on the surface. It makes it easy for them to pass these bills because the vast majority of the public, when they see these things, and the vast majority of the critics on the bill are just going to be like, that's totally fine. As long as I get my pension, I'll vote on that, no problem, right? They don't think about the downstream consequences of it. Again, so, we've covered the rules not going to be defined in the bill, but this is how legal systems are supposed to work. This is how they generally work in places in the world where legal systems are squared away properly. It's like you're going to introduce a bill, the legal system then defines what is good and what is bad, i.e. highway traffic safety. Good, 100 kilometers an hour and under is safe on the highway. Bad, 100 kilometers and over, bad on the highway. There's consequences. Fine. If you go too fast, they may seize your vehicle. They may suspend your license for 2 weeks. There might be a $10,000 fine, stuff like that. Straightforward things. But in this bill, there's no definitions included, and it's going to be up to the new agency or regulator to define those as they see fit. Here's the problem with that. A lot of the times when you speak the truth online and you create content, and this applies to me, you, and anybody else out there that offers an opinion, even if you're not public, even if you use an anon account, I wouldn't be surprised if there'll be verification steps for you to own social media when this bill passes, where they have to have an uploaded piece of government ID, maybe your driver's license or a passport or something like that, so they know who you are behind the scenes, even though you hold out publicly that you're anon. I wouldn't be surprised if that requirement will be made true, because again, The government agency is going to police the platforms, so they're going to set the rules for the platforms. The platforms then have to enforce the censorship that the policed rules are set by the government regulator. Not the bill, not the lawyers that pass the bill or anything like that. It's what they want to write after they have the authority to write whatever the hell they want. Hate crime. Okay, so let's talk about that. Hate crime is saying things that hurt a protected class. Okay, so this is what Canada is defining as hate crime. So what is a protected class? Well, take a look around. What are they amplifying today on social media and calling them protected class? It's certainly not straight white men. Protected class, you'll see, out on social media, making a lot of noise, a lot of ruckus about rights that they've always had all along. Maybe it's the individual, that wants both a penis and a vagina is considered a protected class individual, right? So white people are not in a protected group, so you can criticize them. You can say whatever hateful things you want about somebody that's Caucasian because they're not included in a protected group. So you want to criticize them, judge them, insult them, threaten them with bodily harm. Okay, no problem. You can hate away all you want on social media on somebody like that. But if you offer an opinion that goes against somebody that falls into the hate crime category, which is the protected class, then that automatically triggers the ability for them to penalize you. And by the way, it's not even going to penalize those that have performed a hate crime. This is where it gets really fucking crazy in this bill. My notes here. You can be accused without even facing your accuser. Isn't that crazy? You can have somebody that remains completely anonymous that will point and sputter at you and say, I felt threatened, bullied, whatever it might happen to be, by this individual. They can report to this agency. The agency won't force the accuser to face the accused. They just take that accusation and they run with it. So this is going to open up the floodgates for the keyboard warriors out there, maybe the Karens of the world that like to participate in the, what can we call this? The oppression Olympics. We have a vast swath of people out there today that like to participate in the oppression Olympics. They're all vying for the gold medal of who has been oppressed the most, hated on the most, that may not be a protected class or whatever it happens to be. We have professional victims out there, and they're passing laws to encourage professional victimhood. Now, there's pre-crime solutions in this bill, which is what I was mentioning a few minutes earlier. So, for example, a protected group can express a fear of a hate crime being committed in the future to the authority, to this regulator, and then the regulator can then put restrictions on your movement, i.e. house arrest. One of the interesting sound bites that I found was monitor your fluids. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that, but they can restrict your movement, put you on house arrest, monitor fluids, based on something that you might say. So you haven't actually said it. You haven't actually gone out and created content saying the thing that might be construed as hate by the protected, or bullying or victimization by the protected class. They just think that you're a threat. They can report you as a threat, and then the authority can then in turn restrict your movement or monitor you. This is almost like a social credit score, right? Again, they don't define the exact details, but because it's so broadly written, the interpretation can safely be stated in this fashion, right? This is a bill. So this project is essentially designed to make certain behaviors or opinions illegitimate. There's no rules for the average person to get the government to back off today. So this is something interesting that popped up. I was listening to this lawyer talk about this bill here, and he was talking about he wanted to get into law to understand how to get people to back off when they had no rights to restrict his movement, his ideas, his freedom of expression or rights. And what he found in Canada is that there's no rules that can get the average person to get the state off your back. And that exists a little bit better in the US. We see these videos all the time where, the short clips. It's usually individuals with a camera just filming on public space, and the police will arrive and say, "What are you doing?" And they'll start to interrogate them. And it's kind of a setup. Like, they're really poking and prodding at the police officers to see if they really know what they're doing or if they're just abusing their power. So I think that there's better opportunities for freedom of expression in the States still versus other places in the world, especially something like Canada. The laws are written in such a way that it's extremely difficult to get the government to back off. You have freedom of tax. Okay, we talked about that. Talked about penalties up to $50,000 fines, lifetime in jail. Those are all the main points. I've got some clips I want to play for you because these are something I came across when I was doing some research on the bill. I wanted to see what would pop up on search. Let me throw these up on the screen here. So this gentleman over here, it's just a 3-minute clip. He's basically summarizing Bill C-63, audio share tab. Yes. Okay, you should be able to hear this. Let me know if the volume is not loud enough. Let me just turn it up a little bit. Here we go.
When it comes to free speech, Canada is becoming the Cuba of the North. Canada. There, free speech is under Cuban-like assault. If the government of leftist Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has its way, not only will your right to write and speak what's on your mind be severely restricted, but also the government can jail you if it suspects you might say something that is unlawful. You heard that right. The mere suspicion that you might mouth or write words or phrases that the government deems to be unlawful is grounds to arrest you. Who could have imagined that what George Orwell labeled thought crimes in his classic novel 1984 about nightmarish life in a totalitarian world would be pursued by Canada of all places? Ostensibly, Canada protects free speech in what it calls, quote, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, end quote, which is part of the Canadian Constitution. In the Charter, quote, freedom of expression, end quote, is indeed guaranteed. But then comes the killer qualifier, as long as it remains, quote, within reasonable limits, end quote. You could drive a convoy of dump trucks through that loophole, and Canada's national and local governments have done just that. Over the years, people expressing politically incorrect observations have suffered serious legal assaults by government. Trudeau's new bill targets so-called hate speech on the internet. Anyone could file a complaint against someone or a business. The targeted individual could end up getting hit with house arrest, even if he or she hasn't actually committed a speech crime, but a judge decides there is a likelihood that such a person would do so. Who knew Canadian bureaucrats and officials could read people's minds? One provision would make advocating genocide a crime that could be punishable by life imprisonment. One problem in all of this is definition. For propaganda purposes, for example, Hamas and other anti-Israeli parties accuse Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. So under this would-be law, anyone supporting Israel's war to destroy Hamas could be accused of supporting genocide and therefore be subject to long imprisonment. Speech can be hateful and hurtful, but efforts to ban it become weapons of suppression. As the Trudeau regime demonstrates, governments left to their own devices will abuse their powers. When, in 2022, Canadian truckers organized protests against government vaccine regulations, Trudeau unsheathed a never-before-used law to suppress the drivers by blocking their bank accounts and seizing their vehicles. Thankfully here, a judge just ruled that Trudeau acted illegally.
Okay. I think that's a pretty decent 3-minute summary. Now, you probably have seen some of these clips around the interwebs in the past, because a lot of people rely on mainstream media for their information still. The vast majority of people do, in fact, I would say. They don't think outside of the box. They don't ask why. They don't ask questions. It's stand on your dots, no problem. Wear a face diaper, absolutely. Wear 2 of them, even better idea. Okay, no problem. Get these experimental jabs. They're gonna, be good for you. 75% of the population did it, right? A lot of the messaging that is fed to people by way of mainstream media is not independent reporting. I'm going to show you this clip over here right now. So this is on Instagram. It's a account called Men's Humor, which generally is funny, but this isn't funny. In fact, it's shocking. And if you haven't seen this before, this is the newest one that I've seen, but check it out.
Out of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling trend, irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 We're extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism.
Okay. Close that window. Freedom of expression is being eroded. Freedom of speech, I don't believe exists anymore. I don't think it's existed for a while. If you offer an opinion or make a statement, again, the truth often sounds like hate to those that hate the truth. So if you say something that is counter benefit to a group which is going to participate in the Oppression Olympics, you're probably going to have to deal with the consequences. Me actually making this podcast today is potentially problematic for me. I acknowledge that 100%. There's consequences in today's world for saying things that don't align with the narrative that they want you to parrot. The people that you just saw on that screen, the newscasters, they give them words on the screen and all they do is they say them. They don't offer insight. They don't do any research. They don't counter it. They nod their head and they read it. Even Tucker Carlson, when we saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast, I watched quite a bit of that. He said there, he doesn't have a TV, doesn't use email, doesn't watch the news, none of those things. But he's got some strong opinions that seem to be counter mainstream. So it makes me wonder, when he was a newscaster sitting there reading things off the screen, why? Maybe that's why he got fired. I don't, we'll never know all the full details, obviously, but there's clearly an end to that relationship. But it seems like this is the next step, because they're already controlling the mainstream narrative. The news media, the conventional mainstream news media, doesn't have independent thought, doesn't have independent opinions. Its script is exactly the same all across all of the platforms. Now, there's platforms outside of that which are becoming a lot more influential. X, Rumble, Getter. I don't know. I lose track of all the new ones, but there are alternative platforms that are outside of the Meta group of companies, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all that stuff, that are outside of the Google group of companies, which can and do censor or restrict information as regulators, critical bodies of ideas and notion, pass ideas and state things. It's a real problem. It's a significant problem. And people go, well, what's the solution, Rich? And I'll keep telling you guys, the answer to all this stuff is stop voting for big controlling government. Vote for libertarian government that offers you freedom and doesn't want to get that involved in your life. I'm totally fine with, mild tax rates, paying for fire services, police services, basic stuff that, if they operate. Funny thing here is in Canada, we have a huge problem with car theft right now. There's ports that are very close to Toronto and Montreal. Cars are easily stolen. The police don't enforce it. In fact, they went out publicly and said, hey, we know that they're stealing cars from your driveways. You shouldn't put your key fob in a Faraday box, which is an RF blocking box. Basically, it's a line box that prevents a signal from going from the fob to the car, because what they do is they intercept that, and then they basically get in the car and they drive it away right away. They're saying if they ever come to the door, just hand it over to them. Keep your fobs at the front door. Don't keep them in a Faraday box. Just hand it over to the criminals so that there's no, this is the effort of policing that we get for our nearly 50% or more tax rate, depending on what bracket you're in Canada. So it's really, really interesting that, they continue to take away more of your freedoms, more of your rights, and pass more bills every single year, imposing more and more rules. We never get less rules every year. There's no government that I'm aware of in any time of history that has taken away rules, that have said, hey, that's a stupid rule, let's just take that away, or let's modify it or loosen it. It's always every year they introduce new shit. And a lot of the times, especially here, the shit that they introduce is so broadly worded. They're utterly careless in providing any thought. It's like, what these bureaucrats do when they write this legislation is we have to pass some shit to control people, okay? And they sit around, they go, okay, so how do we pass this to control people? And they're like, well, just broadly word shit. And by the way, let's tie it into a global bill that also specifically deals with something that's really important to the public that we shouldn't have a hard time passing, like protecting children. Sounds like a good idea. So we'll include 7 key elements that need to be in the bill, and the top 2 or 3 will predominantly deal with protecting children, which is important to everybody. Nobody's going to vote against that. But under all of that, there's going to be some language which is going to give a new government regulator, which doesn't exist yet, that we haven't defined terms for, or limitations or boundaries. They can just, at their own discretion, say, this is bad, so there's going to be consequences for that. And by the way, even if you haven't done the bad thing that we're calling bad, that really isn't bad, if you think about doing something bad, or if somebody thinks that you're going to do something that is potentially bad, this new agency will have the authority to investigate you, restrict your movement, check on your fluids. I don't know what that's about, because they anticipate you doing something bad. It's like pre-crime. I'm pretty sure Orwell wrote about that in 1984. Minority Report. Yeah, I don't know. You get the idea, right? So, guys, Canada's not a free speech country, even though, as our seasoned gentleman friend there was talking about it in the Charter of Rights, there's always carve-outs, within limitations. You have the freedom of speech within limitations, right? It's like, okay, well, what are within limitations? It's like totally open to interpretation. It's the same thing that lawyers do when they write contracts. They'll just shove words in there that aren't very clearly defined, but can be enforced later on because it's open to interpretation, right? Because you can't get, or you generally can't, what this lawyer found anyway, you generally can't get the government off your back to have the freedom, to back off. They're always written in such a way that it's extremely difficult to enjoy those freedoms that you purportedly should be enjoying for paying your taxes and doing the right thing. Anyway, so that's what's going on in Parliament here in Canada. That will probably become law in the next couple of years. Is there, people go, well, what about Pierre Poilievre? He was ousted from Parliament, the other day for criticizing Trudeau's ideas as wacko. So check this out. So the official opposition for the Trudeau government, the Liberal government, was removed from Parliament by the Speaker. He's basically the referee. So in Canadian Parliament, on one side there's I don't know, what do you call them? The majority government, let's call it, which is Liberals. And on the other side, there's the official opposition. And generally speaking, when they speak, they don't speak at each other in public. They have to speak to the Speaker of the House. So even though they're talking to the other individual opposing them, they have to talk to the Speaker. Anyway, the official opposition for the Trudeau government called Trudeau's policy on, I believe it was the drug epidemic in British Columbia. Basically, they just give drugs away for free now to these druggies. They'll give them syringes, they'll give them drugs. They're doing it in public. They're doing it in public parks. They're leaving syringes. They're leaving this shit all over the place. They're doing it in front of families. It's a public health issue and it's a hazard. And Poilievre says, this is wacko. Like, why is this happening? And he got removed from that session for calling the Prime Minister wacko. So who knows? Even other critics of the authoritarian sort of government can get removed. I'm actually surprised my stream is still going. They didn't push a button to turn it off or something like that. But hey, maybe that's coming in the future. I don't know. Speaking of which, let me throw up the banner over here because I think it's important to mitigate these sorts of things. So I also simulcast this to Rumble. By the way, there's a Rumble channel. Let me grab the link for it. So if you use Rumble, me on Rumble. People keep telling me to use Rumble more, or maybe explicitly just broadcast to Rumble. So here's the link. I'm going to post this everywhere. So here's the link for Rumble. So Unplugged Alpha Ladies Night, always simulcast to Rumble as well. So for all of those people that keep telling me to make that a priority, there you go. Go subscribe to my Rumble channel. The link to also call in for Q&A is pinned at the top of the live chat on the Rumble channel, the Unplugged Alpha. Go follow me over there. And get on my email list because, the chance exists that this channel may not be around in the future based on the kind of legislation and the language that's involved in here and the direction things are going. Again, people have hope for a conservative government changing things. I don't really see much of it changing, if we're being completely honest. The conservative opposition, more specifically Pierre Poilievre, didn't really speak out against the lockdowns and the mandates and, the mandatory travel restrictions. It was more of a go along to get along. And yeah, this looks like a real problem that, so we're going to support what Trudeau's government is saying. It was only Max Bernier that had a differing opinion, and he got locked up for it. He's a libertarian party leader, and he got locked up for a short period of time for going against the mandates, which were proven after the fact to be unconstitutional. Freezing bank accounts, suspending insurance, all the shit that he did when the truckers went up to Ottawa, by the way. So, yeah, so get on my email list. I may not have this, in the future. So, to stay in touch, I can let you know where I'm at and what I'm up to on the email list. That's the best place for us to connect. You can also get the free chapter from my book, The Unplugged Alpha, The 21 Red Flags, which is what you should be familiar with. So you don't invite problems in your life when it comes to relationships in the future. If you haven't read the book, it's on Amazon. Get it. If you enjoy it, please go and leave a 5-star review. Letting guys know what kind of value you got from it helps. There's always that critical agenda of people not liking the truth. Like I said, the truth will sound like hate to those that hate the truth. And I believe that there is a very, very strong, much stronger movement to censor and police and modify our opinions and language as time goes on, because we have social media today. The government had full authority and control over propaganda in the past, the mainstream media, but with social media and platforms that like free speech type of content, like Rumble, maybe X. Although I still see Elon Musk's X platform censoring or restricting certain content on Twitter/X. I'm hopeful that that is being dealt with internally. Who the hell knows? You get the point. Anyway, let's move to some Q&A. So if you guys have some questions, you want to hop on in, call in, ask me anything you want. We can chop it up. There's a link to do so on Rumble. It's pinned at the top of the live chat. There's a link to do so as well on YouTube. It's pinned at the top of the live chat. I'm going to run an ad reel here, and then we're going to take some questions on a little bit of a Q&A segment. I'll be back in like a minute and a half. This episode is brought to you by the Unplugged Alpha Supplements and Grondike Soap Company. Brothers, if you're like me and you take what you put in your body seriously, you'll want to use the Unplugged Alpha Supplements. An obsession with absorption is what sets this line apart from the others. You want to make sure that you absorb as much of the supplements as possible so you don't end up peeing out expensive urine. My supplement line is made in the United States from the highest quality domestic ingredients. And unlike cheaper supplements from China in plastic bottles, mine ship in dark glass bottles to keep your supplements fresher, longer, and won't seep endocrine disrupting plastics into your supplements. Nothing is a hard tablet. Everything is in an easily digestible, bioavailable capsule. You can filter all products by various categories, including testosterone support, estrogen metabolism, fat burning, immune health, sleep support, and performance. Visit theunpluggedalpha.com/shop and use the subscribe and save option to get 10% off your supplement orders, or use coupon code ALPHA10 for 10% off a one-time order to try it out. Then, I use Tactical Soap and God of War beard oil every day. Tactical Soap is a handmade product made in the United States from ingredients you can actually pronounce, not conventional endocrine-lowering toiletry chemicals. Both the soap and the beard oils are infused with bioidentical pheromones that are designed by a clinical psychologist and pheromone expert to maximize attractiveness to the opposite sex. Go visit coopersoap.com and get 10% off your order today. Guys, check out my website at richcooper.ca for more information on booking me for coaching, my community, my courses, and a whole bunch more. You can also find all the useful links pinned below in the top YouTube comment of all my videos. Now let's get on with the show. All right, let's do this. We got some Q&A stuff going on. Again, guys, if you want to support me and the content that I'm producing, you've enjoyed it, go to the website, richcooper.ca. Everything that I am affiliated with, my book, my supplement line, coaching, if you need one-on-one, it's all there. I get a lot of people that like DM me questions, or on social media, they'll send me like this big long wall of text, or they'll email it to me. And it's like, I do consults one of two ways. There's a free call-in section on the show, which is live every Wednesday at noon on Unplugged Alpha, and I do them privately. So, you know, if you want my private opinion on something that you're stuck on, don't email me or DM me. Book me privately. That's how I do what I do and put out all this public content. All right, let's grab Henry here and see what he's got for us. Again, guys, the link to call in is pinned at the top of the live chat. You got something you want to ask me, maybe even something you disagree with. Let's click, let's chop it up, and have a conversation. Let's throw Henry in here first. Henry, what do you got for me, buddy?
Hi. So last time I came on here, I said I was just doing a startup in Cincinnati, and we've been operating for about 2.5 months. We've crossed 50K in gross sales so far.
Monthly sales?
Well, in the past 2 months.
Total sales. Okay. Well, that's pretty good, man. Good for you.
Yeah, it's well, I'm already dealing with like people threatening lawsuits already with contractors and stuff, so it comes fast when it comes to these people you work with. And a lot of them are awful people. Like they'll go into a homeowner's home and they'll like do drugs in there, and then they'll like leave. So you really have to vet these contractors before you even start doing.
What's your line of work? What's the business?
It is Uberifying home improvement. So an app,
you're creating a contractor to homeowners commerce, essentially.
Yeah. So in real short, so you fill out a form, it generates a price on your project using AI, and then so you get an instant estimate, and then we have a host of contractors in that area that can do that project immediately.
Right.
And then there's a margin on top, of course, for us.
Fucking A, right on. Good for you.
But when you're talking about this thing, like the movement of how the country is going, you could say how laws are becoming more approaching on what you can do. Like I don't, and then you look at like, okay, what are some alternative places to go to? And it doesn't really seem like there is a good one. It seems like you kind of have to fight with the place you're at.
Mm-hmm. So you're in Cincinnati, yeah?
Oh yeah, you can see on my shirt.
Yeah. What sort of problems are you running into?
You know, I don't run into any problems here, honestly. But when you're just looking at the broader scale of things, I would say the number one problem I see for smaller businesses is access to funding. That is really hard unless you are, a person of color, you're a minority. Like the funding, it's almost like it is racist. The way they give out money is racist.
It's nothing new.
Yeah, that
it's
is
nothing new. I mean, that's just the way that it is. You're not part of the. I had the note here. They called it the protected class. So, hate crime is defined as saying things that hurt the protected class, sort of thing. So, you're not part of the protected class.
Like
you're
hate crimes.
You're the privileged class, apparently. So, you are so privileged that you don't get easy access to financing. That's how privileged you are.
Absolutely, and I've discovered this when I was helping my girlfriend build her business, and it was so hard because she does dance, and it was impossible to get money for her dance studio. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna roll up my sleeves. I'm gonna do it myself. So I, used my own funds and helped build her dance studio, but it was impossible for her to get money. And then I think that's probably the access to funds is really tough.
Well, I mean, you got to be smart too about where you invest money. And generally speaking, my advice, and I talk about this in my course, The School of Entrepreneurship, is essentially when you structure a business, when you build the foundation for it, it's really important to contemplate the kind of business that you structure. And not needing startup capital is a really important, like it's an integral part of building a good business. Bootstrapping, every business that I've started, I've never needed to borrow like any money. I mean, maybe I've put a few $100 to a few $1,000, the bank account to sort of get the ball rolling before receivables would start coming in. But there's a lot of businesses like dance studios, for example, that will never make a vast fortune of money. Like they'll probably never do more than $1 million a year in annual sales. It's more of a hobby, right?
I would say the happiness level of that individual that does go into business for themselves is a lot higher. I went from a corporate job to this, and it's like literally lost so much weight just because you're not
right.
sitting.
But let me just finish my train of thought there, because I see guys do this a lot too, right? So, to share a interesting story. So a friend of mine bought a gym to keep his wife busy. Gyms don't generally make a lot of money. This gym that he bought wasn't profitable essentially from the get-go. Then there was the COVID lockdowns as well, which also was a huge problem. But I see guys do this all the time. It's like, their girlfriend or their wife wants something and we want to please them because they always tell guys, you do what's right. Remember, they tell men and women different things. They tell women, do what's right for you, girl. They'll tell men, do what's right. So guys will go and sort of, like sacrifice the lamb to make her happy, sort of thing. And it's not always a wise idea to put money into something it's not a wise idea, not always. It's not a wise idea to put money into a business that doesn't have the capacity to make over $1 million a year in annual sales. Because what you generally do is you go and create something that just employs you so that you become the entrepreneur / employee of that business. And you can now call yourself an entrepreneur, but you never really have real earning capacity. You don't really have something that's sellable on a large scale, right? I mean, if you look at Alex Hormozy's requirement, if he's going to entertain taking a business on to acquisition.com, it's not going to be a $200,000 a year studio or a brick and mortar sort of dojo or anything like that where somebody's learning, basic skills and it's more of a hobby. So I like just to sort of make that statement publicly, because otherwise people will call me out, hey, Rich, why didn't you say something to him? It's like, that's just a statement of fact that I want you guys to hear. Be very, very careful when it comes to where you place your money and how you place your money. Because like you've noticed, money is not easy to get when it comes to starting up a business or getting it off the ground. So it's far, far better to bootstrap and ensure that you're not allocating your financial resources in an area that don't have a good payoff. So your original question was, this is a problem in the States. What do you do about it? And that's an unfortunate reality of the U.S. is it's a very litigious country. I think it's more litigious in Canada, if we're being honest. There's more freedoms, I think, generally speaking, but it's like you can get sued for anything in, the U.S. It's even worse in certain states, but I've seen this with many friends of mine's, businesses where it's like they're constantly dealing with some frivolous bullshit, class action, something lawsuit, attorney general, fair trade commission. Somebody's up their ass about something. And it usually ties into getting involved in businesses, restructuring businesses that are risk exposed to criticism, lawsuits, regulators. For example, anything that makes claims of improving your health or improving your weight or improving your finances, things like that are really open to criticism. You were talking about Uberifying, basically home improvement stuff. And I get it, like the B2B sort of economy is still a thing. Like that's where Airbnb came, and that's where Uber and Lyft and all these other Turos and stuff like that. But you've probably seen the share of like hate and work and regulatory bullshit that Uber's had to go through to continue to run that business. And the only reason why they survived is they had so much angel invest, like money coming from the angel investors that were so invested in that business. It was almost built up in such a way that it couldn't fail, right? Like Uber's a pretty successful company. I think that you would agree. And the great thing about that is it's the largest taxi company in the world that owns no fucking cars. Airbnb is the largest hotel chain in the world that owns no real estate, right? It's just like there's guys that can fix stuff and there's people that need things fixed. So all you do is you broker the interaction between the two, which is a great service business. But yes, you will run into your share of problems. How do you avoid them? Well, Uber, for example, tried very, very hard to make sure that they weren't a taxi company, that they were just an online marketplace. But regulators, attorney generals, FTC, state, federal, like at every single level, lobbyists, for taxi companies all said, you can't just say that you're an online marketplace. You're basically running a taxi company by definition. So there was a lot of this like back and forth shit. So, legal advice should always be taken from a lawyer when it comes to the way that you're running the business, how you structure it. But you will find that as you get it off the ground, I know it's only been 2 months, but as you get it off the ground, people are going to test it. They're going to poke at it. They're going to prod at it. They're going to say, this isn't right. This is illegal. You're saying that you're this, but you're actually this. You're beating a somewhat new path, but what you can certainly do is I would definitely spend some time paying attention to the growth of Uber and Airbnb, which are probably the two biggest, most successful ones. If there's biographies or if there's documentaries or something on some of the shit that they went through, success leaves clues. And it's far easier to learn from the mistakes of others, and cheaper, by the way, than to make those mistakes yourself.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Uber that they had to fight against is having their drivers be classified as independent contractors, and the state was saying no, they should be full-time employees if they work 8 hours or so. So I'm really trying to figure out what is the fine line between a contractor and someone that is considered a full-time, because they bring their own tools, there's so many things, and I really can't control how long they want to stay on a project site. I mean, for that one guy that was awful that's trying to sue us, he literally slept at the house.
Is that the customer that's trying to sue you, or is it the contractor?
The contractor.
The contractor suing you for what?
He's suing me because he did not complete the full project. He was supposed to do a demo and a dump, and he demoed everything, but he didn't dump anything. And he wants the full amount to be paid to him. And he's like,
and you hold it in escrow.
Yes. And he's saying, like, well, I demoed everything, but and there was a dumpster that there was 3 days to get it all in dumpster. He didn't do it. Everything's just demoed in the house and it's all still laying there. And he's like, well, there's labor laws, and I was here for this amount of hours, but we pay per the project, not for your hours, not for how long you're there. And that's really a challenge. I need to.
Well, that's just a test. So that's him poking and prodding at your business structure. And so, are you familiar with case law?
No, I am not.
Case law is essentially the ability for a lawyer to argue your case using a judgment from a prior case, right? So, I don't know, like using something like, I don't know, like a criminal code offense or something like that. If a judge ruled in favor of something that you're trying to argue today, you can then take that ruling from 3 years ago and be like, yo, this judge ruled in favor of this individual who also happens to be very similar to what my client's dealing with. So I want to take this precedent and apply it to this case over here. So that's what case law basically means. So, I mean, the same is true, I'm pretty sure, in the States. I mean, you should check with a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that case law exists down there as well. But if this has been tested before elsewhere, then you can take that test and you can apply it to resolve your case. Or maybe this is the first time that it happens and you got to fight this dickhead and, you know, prove the point. And then you'll win. And then you can, you know, now have that precedent used again in the future. But that may not exist from state to state, right? So if you're just dealing in Ohio and you're licensed to work over there and that's where it is you're at, you're going to find that as you sort of broaden the business and you build it and you go to other areas and you lean into other states, that you're going to have to want to check what the laws state over there so that you don't run into complications, because you might go through a dozen, 3 dozen, 10 dozen, you know, jobs, and then all of a sudden you've got some fucking law firm that's an ambulance chaser that goes, oh, class action lawsuit. Did you suffer damages, you know, hiring Henry's company to get your plumbing fixed or some shit like that? And then you've got this wall of, you know, fuckery coming your way, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So welcome to running a business. It's awesome. You'll have a lot of freedom and you have the opportunity to make a lot of money, but there's also headaches that come with it too.
Absolutely.
Insurance is very helpful too. So do you have E&O insurance for stuff like that?
So how we work is that we merge the contractor and the homeowner, and it's dependent on the contractor to have liability insurance.
Okay. Just like it's just like a Uber driver has to have his own car insurance, like Uber's not paying for the insurance. Yeah. So good. Yeah. Use that because it's been tested. Like if that Uber model has been tested, then you just substitute, you know, driver for contractor, and then you substitute passenger for homeowner, you know, sort of thing.
One more thing. So, I mean, it was a prior question, but you see the encroachingness of like it's never like gonna stop in terms of like, you know, higher taxes, less freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Like, is there any place to retreat to though? It seems like that's just the way it is.
Yeah. You know, I was having this conversation privately with a bunch of guys in my inner circle, you know, the other day in my community. And, you know, one of the guys was like, yeah, you know, I think I'm going to go to this country. And that notion is antiquated because pendulums swing, right? Like you'll see a favorable country, even a state or a province within a country, offer opportunities for you to do business there, move there, live there, pay lower taxes, benefit, whatever it happens to be. But that incentive can be taken away at any given time. It's like a woman. Like a woman reserves the right to change her mind at any given time about you. The vows that she takes today when you get married, and she's, I love you till death do us part, and sickness and health and all that shit, that may not mean anything in 6 years' time when you get sick and you're broke and poor and have cancer and she decides to leave you. Okay. It's the same thing with regulations in other places as well. You might take advantage of an incentive to go somewhere and pack up and move and set up your business and all that sort of stuff. And that country or state or province may decide, we don't want these people here anymore. Fuck them. You know, we're going to change the laws, or we're going to take away, you know, what it is that we offer to get them over here to get set up. So I think the best strategy is not to look for one place, but to be diversified in the sense where you've got like 3 passports, 3 potential residencies, and that if the laws or the opportunities change in such a way that they're no longer to your benefit, that you're like, you know what, this place was good for 5 or 6 years. We had a good run. But, and this is the kind of business that I recommend guys set up. It's an location independent business, meaning you can run it from anywhere in the world. But because this place sucks now, I'm going to take my location independent business and I'm going to go to this place where I also have a passport and residency, or maybe a condo or a house or something that I bought into within that country, so I have the ability to move over there. So the diversification of yourself. It needs to be something that you have to contemplate. You're still probably on the younger side for it, and you're not making quite enough money to invest in all these opportunities. But when you start, I mean, $50,000 over 2 months is great, but when you're making $50,000 a day, and the business is really steamrolling, and you got a lot of people that work with you, and you've got systems in place, you need to be able to set yourself up so that you're not anchored to one location, that if you do need to pick up and move, it's not going to be the end of the world, right? It's just a matter of just taking your laptop and moving to another location.
It definitely fits that criteria with the ELF. Now, what is that red line in the sand? Because my ancestors, the only reason I'm in the U.S. to begin with is because the Germans were coming. They're like, oh, we got to get out of here. We're going to be in trouble. And that was their red line in the sand. Like, when is, like, what is the line? That's what or is it just something when it hits you?
It'll be like taking a frying pan to the forehead. It'll be like really obvious. Like this, like essentially, this is more trouble than what it's worth. And I think that's where a lot of people are at in Canada right now. Definitely during the scamdemic, when I saw a lot of entrepreneurs, friends of mine that run location independent businesses that were being forced to do things that didn't really make a lot of sense for what turned out to be a common cold. They just said, fuck it, and they left. And, they went to places like, Europe, South America, Mexico, and they run their business from there, and they're pretty much permanent. And if that doesn't work out for them over there, they'll take their location independent business and they'll move to somewhere else. So it's just obvious. The restrictions that they had here during the scamdemic were pretty strong, and it forced a lot of people to leave. There's a lot of people that didn't have the opportunity to leave, though, right? So being able to maneuver is an important tool to have in your tool chest as a man, I believe, in today's world.
Absolutely. Hopefully that frying pan comes in 20 years or 30 years.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have any issues and everything's all good. But just be aware that being an entrepreneur comes with its set of challenges, and you don't get the exceptional opportunities for freedom and wealth without problems that come along with it.
Oh, absolutely. It's just having pathways to deal with those, which I'm discovering.
Cool, man. Best of luck.
Thank you. I got some good notes. Thanks, man.
All right, see ya. All right, let's grab Murad. I might not be pronouncing it right, but let's pull him in here. Again, guys, if you want to call in and ask a question, or if you disagree with something that I've talked about, the link is pinned in the live chat of both Rumble and YouTube at the top there. Just click it through, and we'll talk to you guys live. Let's grab this one over here. What's up?
All right. How are you?
Good. What do you got for me, man?
I just arrived today from Australia, back home now, so Vancouver.
You just arrived from where?
Australia, Melbourne.
Australia. Okay, yeah.
So anyway, so let's get to it. So actually, I'm trying to do like super thanks, but it's not working with the Australian card. I don't know why. I want to send you like $100 thanks. So this might be a note. This number one. Number two, I did what you said, just spin blades and all this kind of stuff. And now I've been through like 3 options. And my issue I have, like I just choosing the one with the most red flag to proceed with.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Like, what's the question?
What I'm saying, I did like you said, spin blades. I end up with like 3 options.
Okay, so you're dating 3 women, yeah?
Yeah, simultaneous, like you say. And now I'm just like leaning more toward the one with the most red flags. The one
you're leaning towards the one with the most red flags.
Yeah, with all the red flags pretty much you have, except that 2s.
Okay, so you're leaning towards the option with the most red flags.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Just like I feel like might be love, might be emotional, might be feeling sorry. You tell me.
Crazy looks like love to a lot of guys, doesn't it?
100%, yeah, agree.
So, I mean, the point of the chapter on red flags is so that you identify problems and then avoid problems. So you know what the problems are. So what are the red flags that this walking Chinese Communist parade has for you?
Well, unhappy, unlucky from, I'm not sure this country, Kazakhstan, and struggling. I do business in Canada, Australia, and Dubai. So I met her in Dubai, and then they asked like all this kind of stuff, like just go back to Kazakhstan, buy her a house, all this bullshit nonsense, which I disagree with. And then I was dating also Japanese and Vietnamese and Singaporean same time. Pretty much, like you said, like let the cream rise to the top. two of them actually rose to the top, but I still won this one, right? So, but I'm just now trying to get over it somehow, some way, right? So.
Well, I mean, guys love complicating their life and justifying why. So
yeah.
I would be asking myself, why do I want to invite this stack of problems, this stack of red flags into my life on a long-term basis? Like
more feel sorry, I would say.
More what?
Feeling sorry for her. Feeling bad
you feel
for her.
sorry for her?
Yeah, somehow.
So inviting a woman that has a whole bunch of red flags into your life on a permanent basis because you feel sorry for them, you think that's a good idea? Oh, we might have lost them. Looks like we lost them. Yeah, I don't get that logic, man. I mean, she's got red flags. I'm gonna there's a meme on the internet with a box of red flags. Let me just pull it up. Box of red flag. It's hilarious. I've got, oh, there it is. This here. Where is the damn picture? Oh, it always goes that way when you click on the photograph. It never opens properly. Here, I'll just do it like this. Present, share screen, box of red flags. Yeah, the caption, it's not showing up because when I clicked it, it didn't go away. But it's essentially a box that says red flags, and it's got red flags in it. And the caption is, it's clearly labeled, you know what's in it, but you date it and marry it anyway. Or something like that. Like, this is what guys will love to do, right? Why? Complicate life, justify why. Oh, hang on, he's back. There you go, you're back. I lost
Sure, I'm
you.
just in the car, I'm just driving back, so not too much a good signal. So
yeah, dude, like I would not entertain this. Like, you know what the problem is? Again, the whole point of me putting together that chapter and giving it away for free is to help men identify problems. It doesn't matter how great she is in the sack. It doesn't matter how pretty she is. Some guy somewhere is tired of putting up with her bullshit, and she's trying to sell herself to you as being more valuable than what she is. So why would you want to take on the burden of that, is what I would ask you. And it's like, look, if you, I'll tell you straight up, dude, you can date these women, you can marry them, you can put babies in them, you move them in your house, buy them out, whatever the hell it is, you can do all of these things, but your life will become more complex than what it would be with a woman that's more of a complement to your life. And my advice is essentially, don't complicate your life unnecessarily. Be discerning in your taste. Be discerning in who you invite into your life. And don't allow people that are going to create levels of complexity in your life into it. Just don't. So that's my advice. I don't have anything else beyond that, man. I just think it's incredibly stupid to entertain problems.
I agree with you. So, okay, number two, now I'm going to be back in Toronto in 18, and I would like to join the 1%. I did the application. I was trying to set up a meeting with Cheryl or someone like this.
Slow down, my friend. I'm having a hard time understanding you. Say that again.
I want to join the 1%.
Okay.
And I did set up a meeting.
Okay.
But someone named Cheryl, someone was supposed to show up, but nothing happened anyway.
He's not going to take the call to book it if you don't meet the qualifiers. Generally speaking, you need to be worth at least $1 million, and you need to have a net income, annual net income for the 1%, over $150,000, $200,000 a year.
Well, I do over $1 million a year, so I'm fine.
Sorry?
I do over $1 million a year, so I'm fine.
Okay, so then you didn't fill out the form properly. That's probably why he didn't take your call. So if you're a candidate, you can fill it out.
They did set up time to meet, but they didn't show.
He didn't show?
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't take the call if he doesn't get the right information on the form. So maybe you missed something there.
So refill the form, or what to do?
Refill it, and and then he'll qualify you. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks so much for everything you do.
Thanks, man.
Great. Cheers, buddy.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I missed a super chat here earlier that popped up. He said, "Great topic. Nikki Haley proposed an online ID in the U.S. To track offensive speech, so we're not far behind." Yeah, like I said, you're going to get that. Guys, it's coming for all countries everywhere. You're going to get these proposals from bureaucrats and policymakers, and they're not proposing bills or laws or legislation or anything that offers you more freedom, lower taxes, none of those things. Every single law that I've ever seen proposed to be imposed on us as citizens of a country is some form of a restriction. guised, like all these bills again, are wrapped under the guise of something virtuous, i.e., protecting children from online harm. Right? I'm in full support of protecting children from harm. They should include drag queen storytime hour in that, but I doubt that that's included in there. All right, let me grab the next caller we got here. And again, if you guys want to call in, the link is pinned at the top of the live chat on YouTube and Rumble. We got Icarus here. Let's see what he's got for us. Icarus, what's up, buddy? What do you got for me today? You're muted. You got to unmute yourself if you want to talk, bro. No? Okay, we'll just remove you then. I got Kizza as well. Let's grab Kiz. What's up, Kizza?
Evening, Rich. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, mate. Minus my tiredness from work. So, as you see in the title, there, enforce terrible rules strictly.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm not sure if you've been keeping in the know, but Scotland quite recently passed a hate crime bill.
Yes, very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, and basically, a lot of people were worried about this, but I informed many people I know from Scotland. Basically, as soon as that bill goes live, call the police relentlessly, spam their phone, spam their hotlines, reporting a hate crime against Hamza Yusuf, who passed the bill originally.
Yeah,
just relentlessly paused it to the point where now the guy himself. Sorry, I cut out there. Can you hear me okay?
You're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me okay? I'm just
got
a little laggy there.
Citizens reported a hate crime against Hamza Yusuf himself. Is that what happened?
Yes, there was thousands upon thousands because of his speech. Yeah, because he made a speech back in 2020, slagging in a pub. That, along with failing to create a coalition pack with the Greens, if memory serves.
Okay.
So basically, he ended up resigning basically because of how unpopular it was. So,
I
just
was
for anyone
surprised
who's
that was
curious,
even passed as a bill.
Well, the problem is Scotland. It's a ridiculous. Like honestly, Scotland's just an absolute hellhole. Like you think Canada's bad, Scotland's way worse when it comes to these like hate crime legislations and stuff. It's
the Scots don't typically put up with bullshit historically, right?
Well, yes, but the thing is, this is current Scotland, which is highly progressive, and the thing is, most of the stuff they didn't tolerate, it was purely out of anti-English resentment. That's the ironic thing. And quite frankly, they're quite happy. They would happily, how could I put this? They will happily invite some of the worst people in society on the basis that they're not English, or they hate the English.
Yeah, that guy Hamza Yusuf or whatever the hell his name. He's clearly anti-white. He doesn't like Caucasian people.
Oh no, he's a pure
Anglophobe.
Anglophobe.
That he gave. Yeah, like I saw that speech that he gave where he was criticizing the lack of. I mean, like anybody that wasn't white in parliamentary or like in bureaucracy. And I was just shaking my head. I'm like, this is clearly white hate.
Oh yeah, it's pure Anglophobe.
But I mean, you can't say that because white people are privileged. They're not a marginalized group or a protected group.
Oh yeah, we're so privileged. Why doesn't everyone call themselves white and therefore benefit from the privilege? Because race is a social construct.
Yeah, of course.
That's ridiculous. But that's why I try and explain to many people across the pond with these types of hate crime laws. That's why I say enforce these rules strictly. Go relentlessly, ring up the phones like crazy, and make it such a nightmare for them that they'll either drop it or the people who pushed it ends up getting removed.
Yeah, I don't know that Canadians will do that. They're too nice. They're too agreeable to do stuff like that. But but I'm chuffed to hear that it worked in Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, because I know a few Scots who are like very nationalistic, but they're not the anti-English type nationalist.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to them about it, and I told them, trust me, this will work. Just relentlessly spam the phones, which they did. Told everyone they knew, spam the phones relentlessly. And I think it was the first day it went live. The police had over 8,000 calls reporting the hate crime. 8,000.
Good.
Like you think Scotland's not a big country, so. That's why I try and tell people, and that's why I said enforce rules strictly, because I believe, unless I'm grossly mistaken, I believe it was Abraham Lincoln who said a quote that says, to demonstrate why a law is bad, enforce it strictly. I believe that's a quote, something along those lines, but that's what you got to do. And quite frankly, There's people say, well, you have to fight for these rights. Quite often, the best thing to do is not to fight it, is to let the bills be passed and then go on the offense.
Enforce terrible rules strictly. Love it. Thanks, man. Appreciate you popping in.
No worries. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah. Take care.
All right. Still got this guy Icarus here, but his mic's off. Give him one more stab at it. Icarus, there you go. Hi, how are you? What's up?
Good, thank you. Thank you for taking the call. So there was a problem with the mic. So I have a question about genuine burning desire.
Sure.
So I have had like girlfriend that they have demonstrated that. So matching what you describe in your book. Okay. So I think I can say when I see it, but right now when I'm like using dating apps, and as like you suggested, like the setting the profile and keeping the texting very minimal before meeting in person, right? So my question is that at what level should I expect to see that? Like even like before the first day, like within the first 2 days or something like that, I should see that reaction. To me as a man, it's kind of irrational to have that level of desire for someone that I haven't met.
If it's too strong right out of the gate, it's a little bit weird. It's
no, I guess on the other side, I don't see it.
No, I hear what you're saying, but let me just sort of explain what I'm going to tell you here. Sure. If it comes on really strong and hard out of the gate, there's probably something wrong with her. I think BPD chicks usually love bomb very hard. So that's probably what you're going to get. But as far as what it should look like, it just should be obvious. Like, if you meet on a dating app, she shouldn't be like making you jump through hoops. Like, well, before I give you my number and want to meet for a date, I want to get to know you on here and ask you some questions and all that sort of shit. Like a chick that's got GBD for you, she'll see your photographs, read your bio, check out all your vitals. You'll say hi. She'll say hey backs, maybe ask a question. And then, you just basically say something like, look, I don't use this app much. Let's get together and grab a drink. What's your number? She'll give you her number. You meet for a drink. She shows up on time. She doesn't cancel. She doesn't reschedule. She's enthusiastic when she gets there. She's dressed well. She's attractive. She's not on her phone. It just should be obvious, right? She asks when she's going to see you again. She'll text you afterwards and say, I had a great time. Thanks. Thanks for the whatever. That's typically the way that it'll go. Like, it'll just be obvious to you. Like, it shouldn't be a question in your mind. Like, does this chick really like me? It'll be very obvious.
So like typically like before the first day, especially like, sometimes like when I ask for a number, they say that like we can just set the date and location on the app. Why should I give you?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. And
because I mean, a chick that digs your vibe, she will give you her phone number. Right, like she's not going to be like, "Oh, stranger danger, I don't know who this guy is." She will give you her number because she can't miss the opportunity to meet you. Look, you want to do it, try it, but the chances of you getting catfished or having your time wasted or showing up and she's not there, or maybe she sends you somewhere and then you're going to get robbed, exists. Right, like it's like the potential for problems to pop out of this do exist. So. That's how dating should work, is give me your number and let's meet.
Okay. But like the things you mentioned in the book that like she randomly texted you for no reason, things like that. Should I expect that kind of level of desire either before the first meet or like after the first date or something?
Not necessarily before, but after, right? Like if she still digs your vibe after, the first date, you should get a random text. It should be a thank you, thanks for meeting me. I enjoyed the whatever, enjoyed the stroll, the coffee, the drink, the whatever it is you happen to do.
Okay.
When can I see you again? I don't know. I saw that you do this, what do you know about that? Like asking you questions, right? Like
keep the conversation going, I guess.
Yeah. Like a woman that asks you questions has a genuine interest in you. What do you do for a living? What do you do for fun? I saw that you drive this car. How long have you had it? How do you like it? Like anything, like asking you any question shows that she has a genuine interest in you because she wants to get to know you. If she's not doing that, if you get one word answers, she's not responding within a reasonable period of time, like within a few hours. Like women have their phone in their hands all the time. So if you hear some shit like, I'm sorry it took me 2 days to get back to you. I'm terrible with texting. Yeah. Okay, sure. I'm sure that you don't respond to you know, the high value guy in 2 days. You're getting back to him like as soon as he's basically hitting send, right? So,
yeah. Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah. And one other question, if you have time. So I don't know if you have read like the models book, but
Mark Manson's book.
Yeah. So
It's
like,
okay.
yeah. So one thing I saw different between that and your approach is that like for the first date, especially, he kind of suggested having like 2-3 hours, like multiple activity, like go grab a coffee, bowling,
Yeah, that's
something like
like
that.
yeah,
But
that's
yours is like just grab a coffee, keep
yeah.
it
I'll
minimal,
tell you
sniff
why.
test. Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because Mark Manson comes from the pickup space. Like
Okay.
that's his Batman origin story. I was
Yeah.
never a pickup artist. I didn't do any of that bullshit. The venue changes is like one of their little tools.
Tricks? Okay.
Yeah, it's a trick. And what it does is like, you know, you'll meet at a bar or a coffee shop. You're there for half an hour. You have your drink. And then you're like, hey, you know what? There's this whatever, you know, down the street or a block away that's really cool or interesting, or a bowling alley, whatever it happens to be. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But the venue change gives them control over movement of the desire. You know, like the fact that you can take her from one spot to another spot creates more interest from her to you. The reason why I say just do a sniff test is because you don't really need more than an hour to figure out if you dig somebody's vibe. The whole pickup thing of like venue changes is really to get the lay. The more time that they can spend with you, the more venue changes they can do. It's easy to go from the coffee shop to the bowling alley. The bowling alley gets boring after an hour. Let's go back to my apartment. I got this really cool whatever. And you give them a reason to go back to their place. So they do the venue changes to try to get laid, basically, is what it boils down to. I'm not a fan of like same night lays. If she digs your vibe, she's going to sleep with you, right? It's like, I don't think that it's a good idea to do that within the first date. Some guys like to do it. My idea is check her out, see if she likes you, compare her to the other chicks that you're dealing with, and then, you know, you move them forward, you sort of advance them.
I don't like to get laid on the first night for many reasons, like including like false TV charges or things like that.
Right.
And I have done what he said like a couple of times. To me, I felt that it's kind of show me as a needy person that I want to keep you around for more time.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see your perspective on that time.
It probably
Before
works
that,
for
I was-
younger guys, but for guys around my age, it's like, you know, why do you have time to do venue changes with a chick on a first date? It's like, I'm fucking busy, bro. I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. I got an hour for you, and that's it. And I think that the scarcity in your time, if you're a more seasoned gentleman, you're a higher value guy with some resources, you know, option to you. She doesn't want to be entertained in the first date. Like, she wants to see that you're busy. She wants to see that you're in demand by other people, that other women want to be with you and other men want to be like you, sort of thing. So time restrictions within the hour, I find, work the best to sort of suss through your available options out there. But try the venue change if that's what you like. It's up to you.
Thank you so much.
Cool, man. See you. Bye. All right, let me get the super chat over here real quick. Wokeness going viral. It was a test run for our free speech rights being taken away legally. They use social media shaming as an intro into these laws. Yeah, guys, you know, most of you guys are pretty, you know, unplugged from the crap. So I'm on the same page. Let's see one more. I got Michael here. Mike, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Rich. My question is regarding dating, more or less kind of related to the previous one.
Sure.
And it's like, how do you deal with the repetitive kind of questions?
Like, what do you do for a living? Where did you grow up?
Yeah,
Stuff
pretty
like
much
that.
the same kind of more or less kind of interview kind of style, one way or the other. So it's like...
Yeah, it's like a fucking interview, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like, I don't have the desire to go meet another Betsy or somebody else. It's like, okay.
I mean, I've seen women do this where they'll have like all the frequently asked questions answered already, where they'll be like, yes, my day's going well. Yes, the weather is awesome. I'm in a good mood today. Like, you know, like frequently asked questions, like the standard bullshit. It's just part and parcel of dating, dude. It's like, you know, if you're gonna use dating apps and you're gonna meet multiple women, they're going to ask you all the same shit. What do you do for a living? Where did you grow up? Do you have any brothers and sisters? What do you like to do for fun? I mean, if you want to put it all on a resume and do an FAQ sheet and like hand it to them before you even meet, then you can get past that stuff. I would imagine maybe she'll laugh at it. Maybe she'll think that you're a player and that you date too much. So, you know, it could backfire on you. It could save you time. It's just part of it, dude.
I know that's what I kind of, if you had any insight, it can be kind of applied to.
I mean, like you're gonna, so the insight that I would have is don't go out with women that you don't genuinely find attractive, because you're going to get burned out dating women if you're not genuinely attracted to them. So pick a line in the sand. Like, let's say you have to have at least an 8 or 9 out of 10 level of interest in her to go out on a date. If you match with a chick and she's like, you're like a 5 or 6, like you're kind of indifferent or you don't really like her, but you got nothing else going on, you don't have any other options, so you go out with her, and then you sit down, you listen to shit like, where did you grow up? What do you do for a living? Do you have any siblings? You know, what do you like to do for fun? You don't really like her, so of course you're going to get frustrated with her. So it's my advice not to go out with women that you don't really have strong interest in. I mean, if you're only getting women that you don't have strong interest in, then your time's better spent leveling yourself up to become a higher value man so that you have access to women that you have strong interest in. Because let's be honest, all guys want the same thing. Attractive feminine women that have curves, that are fit, that haven't run around and spent their youth, you know, sharing their body with a ton of dudes, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So you want those girls, be a higher value guy.
Got it. Thanks a lot.
All right, man. See you. All right. Fair questions. Fair questions. Good questions. I like them. Okay. I think we'll wrap up today's show. Thanks for, listening to my rant about the insanity that goes on with Canadian laws that are probably coming for you anyway, even if you don't live in Canada. So watch out for it. Again, guys, get on my email list. Before I forget, we're launching a School of Unplugging June 1st, which is going to be a rudimentary, basically everything that gets asked over and over again to deal with style, the physicality of masculinity, lifting weights, strength training, combat, women, dating, how to manage long-term relationships, making money, all that shit in a very affordably priced community with monthly Zoom calls and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you're on my email list, you'll get notified there of it first. Also, if you're on my email list, you'll get a bunch of the videos which came from my 1% forum earlier this year in January, which we held in Toronto. The one that I released to my email list the other day was Mike Piazza, who's the MLB Hall of Famer. We had a sit-down talk for about an hour. You guys seemed to really enjoy that in the email list that got a chance to watch it. So yeah, get on my email list. I only send out stuff that's relevant. They go out in a sequence. So if you're not on the email list, you'll have to go through the sequence to get to the Mike Piazza talk at the 1% forum. I got one from an IFBB pro bodybuilder that's going to come out. I got one from Orion Taraban, who runs a Psych Hacks YouTube channel, which will come out on my email list. What other ones will I release? There's a few that are kind of like, I probably shouldn't, just because of the nature of the conversation. It's like we dealt with stuff across the spectrum that is useful towards men, and some of the stuff that we had conversations around about structuring your life and how to navigate and deal with the potential problems that a lot of the times people ask with solutions. Probably just keep it offline for those that attended the event. So I'm going to release around half of the videos that were recorded. The rest of them will just remain private. If you're a member of the YouTube channel, they get released for membership as well. So if you're in the live chat and you're a channel member, thanks for your support. It helps out tremendously. You'll have access to those as soon as I publish them. You don't even have to be on the email list. So pick one or the other if you guys want to check those out. Leave a comment below. See you guys next week. Moff will be on Moffice Hours, Ladies Nights, Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have an amazing day and enjoy.